order the Wednesday, February 22nd meeting of the Historic District and Historical Commission. We are recording, so as required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. We are doing that. If any person in the audience intends to either audio or video record this open session, we're asking you to inform the chair under state law. Anyone? No one? My name is Mary Maslowski. I'm the chair of the Historic District and Historical Commission. First, like a roll call.
Bob Doan.
Gail Carroll.
Barbara Dowd.
Thank you all. The first item on our agenda, Mrs. Urbano had requested to speak to us about CPC funding a couple of weeks ago. If you have anything to say, please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and we'll move forward.
It's at
Finally.
it's at you guys' pleasure. I don't know whether you want me to read. It was only just to catch you up. Gail and I had presented to the CPC committee for our project. We were hoping with you, so it was you and I assisted, and we were hoping to get funding to submit to the National Register of Historic Places, and we were turned down. And I was trying to figure that out, and in doing a little bit of trying to figure that out, there's not much recourse. So you go to the Community Preservation Coalition website. And I also used the Mass Historic listserv, so found out that many times towns have funded this. And so I tried to figure out why we weren't. And it seems to have come down to a difference of identifying what preservation means. It means one thing to the Community Preservation Committee, but to historic people, preservation is a different meaning. So the coalition website describes some remedies, including one of them which says, because of this problem, it's not, our community preservation, and you can see a letter I sent to them, they did a great job. They did what they're supposed to do. But it's like defining that word. And so the remedy is that you ask your town to seek a preservation specialist and or a lawyer to sit down with the CPC to evaluate that project to see whether or not it actually could be included. So that is what I asked on February, I believe it was the 17th. I asked for a formal request to the Board of Selectmen. I gave them the printout, and I'm waiting to hear back. I've not heard anything.
So I was correct me if I'm wrong, I was of the understanding that it was the HDHC that made application.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I guess my concern in going to the Board of Selectmen, I think technically it should come as a letter from this board as opposed to coming from yourself. I appreciate the lobbying effort.
Right.
But just to kind of make sure that we're clear who's doing the asking, which may be an issue.
I do
from
understand,
time to time.
and I did think about that. But I actually wrote at the last minute. The Historic Commission was going to do it at the last minute. Plans fell through. We had 3 days to put it together. I wrote and got permission to sit and present it.
Okay.
And because it's the West Harwich Working Group, and I am an individual, I did it in that regard, and I hope they understood that.
Okay.
As to what your pleasure is or how you want to proceed, I'm perfectly willing to see what you want.
If I could say
Please.
one thing. So on the application, because I went with Sally.
Sure.
She was identified as the project
Manager.
manager.
Okay.
And the question did come from the CPC. They asked, maybe I'm wrong on this, but they did ask you, Sally, why you were
I was there.
private citizen, something like,
Yeah.
she's doing this on her own.
Yeah.
But it was clear, and we referred them to that section, that it was a historic district, historic commission.
Yep.
Sponsored, it was a project that we wanted to go forward, and Sally was the
Okay.
identified project manager.
And
So-
CPC knew that ahead of time because I wasn't sure that I could do that either.
Understood.
And so I explained the situation, and they said, yeah, you can have anybody, present the project, so.
Right.
So to my knowledge, at this point, is CPC completed for the year? Or are they still going through meetings?
I
That
bel-
don't know.
I believe they are done as far as this goes.
As far as the
I
applications.
don't know where we stand because I wrote this immediately and asked that they revisit it, which of course we know they did with the library.
Okay.
So I don't know where it stands. I really don't know.
Just as a point of interest.
Please.
In the Chronicle today is an article, a very similar situation has just occurred in Chatham, where the commission went to the CPC looking for funds to prepare an application for, actually they're looking for funds for 2 applications for National Register consideration. And the CPC was in the same quandary that ours was, whether is it really preservation, or does it really fall into the right category so it could be funded? And they have, and I haven't read the whole article, but they have requested to have a determination made. At whether we could tie that in with ours, I would think it's so similar, maybe we could reference it in some way.
So if it's the pleasure of the board, we could certainly reach out to either back to the selectmen, or we can reach out to Mr. Clark and see if there is any guidance, if this is something that we can seek funds on, and then he could reach out to town council. But, that's going to be his determination
Right.
whether he wants to or not. But
Right.
we could certainly pass that request along if the board chooses. So I can entertain a motion to seek that request, or we can postpone it for, we can,
I think we should, I'd like to move to ask either Board of Selectmen or Chris Clark to follow up on the determination of, making a determination as far as whether this would apply.
To ask legal counsel.
Yeah,
if it is.
exactly, legal opinion. And I'm sure they're aware of what's going on in Chatham, and maybe there'd be some.
okay, so there's a motion to ask the Board of Selectmen and, let's say, and the town administrator for a determination as to whether the HDHC can legally request CPC funds, whether CPC is allowed to
Fund the
to fund
application.
an application for National Historic Register.
Right, good, yeah.
I second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries unanimously. So we will prepare a letter to both and follow up, follow up and see if there's a legal reason
Thank you, I appreciate it.
behind it.
Yep. And
Thank you for your patience.
I will wait till your pleasure and you direct me, so thank you.
No, honestly, I was kind of confused by the whole situation. The original
It is
request.
confusing.
The original one came up at my, I think, first Historic Commission meeting, so I thank you for your assistance and
Thank
your
you.
patience.
We appreciate it, and was Harwich too. Thanks you.
Okay, on to new business. This commission had received a communication from Mr. Ralph Diamond at 103 Route 28 West Harwich. It was relative to the Habitat for Humanity proposed development at 9397 Route 28. I placed that item on this agenda simply for the fact that it had not been on an agenda prior to the last meeting, because it is the subject of the Habitat for Humanity application, and we were going to discuss that later on this evening. I wanted to be sure that the board had received the communication and had an opportunity to review it. I believe it was sent to the Board of Selectmen and other boards and commissions. Did anybody have any questions about what was in that communication? And if not, then I would suggest it would be appropriate for a motion to accept and place the communication on file with the commission.
I'd like to move to accept and place the communication on file.
Okay. Any second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So the impetus for this meeting is this communication from the Zoning Board of Appeals. They had reached out to Planning Board, Conservation, Board of Health, the Housing Committee, and the HDHC, among other town departments, rather. As you all are aware, the Habitat for Humanity, in case number 2017-04 before the Zoning Board of Appeals, has submitted a application under Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 to 23, and 760 CMR 56 et al. It is their intention to create an 8-lot subdivision to provide 6 single-family affordable homes and 2 market-rate lots on a cul-de-sac. The property is located at 93 and 97 Route 28 in Harwich, map 10, parcels W3-B and W5, and they are located in the RL zoning district. For everyone's edification, I believe this has come to us for comment strictly for the interest of the Chase Building, which is one of the 2 properties on, right on Route 28. It is my understanding from the application that the application proposes to keep those 2 buildings in place and then build in the back. There is, and as a part of your packet, there are a couple of maps. One of the maps shows generally the site plan. It's this green one that shows a cul-de-sac property. And it shows this parcel 93 and parcel 97, and it does show that those are the existing homes. It does show that there may be one portion that is being relocated on 93, although I admit the copy isn't great. I would say the only matter that this board really has to comment on this is really due to the Chase Building. So if you folks have any questions, any discussion on your thoughts on how you would like to, or if you would like to send a communication to the Zoning Board of Appeals, we can remain silent. The board could choose to send a letter in support based on those buildings remaining in place. The board could choose to make comment in opposition. From my perspective, I find it favorable that they're keeping those 2 buildings in place. I'm not sure whether that would happen if a future developer came in to make application, but I would open it up to the board for comments and thoughts.
I mean, I do understand that it is, our concern is the Chase Building. And as long as it's being supported, at this point, I don't see any negative comment from this board.
Okay.
I agree. I wouldn't want to stop the project as we do want to save the house. So with the consideration of saving the property, I think I would support.
Any thoughts, Barbara?
I agree.
Okay. Is it the board's pleasure to draft a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals indicating our support based on the fact that the Chase Building is remaining in place?
I think I'd like to have a voice in.
It would, as long as it's a qualifier.
Okay.
Right, right.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
we are in support as long as the Chase Building is being
consider-
preserved in whole, or, you know, in substantial whole.
Right, so preserving the house on its existing site?
I don't even go
Does-
that far.
no.
I mean, if they moved it, we've approved those before.
Well, that's true. But I'm just considering this, the
streetscape.
streetscape and how it fits in position to the other older, beautiful homes on that stretch. So if they were to move it and it's not on the street,
Yeah. You can
so,
come back.
I don't know, I'd kind of like to have that on its existing site.
Okay. Would the board's pleasure be to draft and circulate a letter for your review? And then we could submit it to the zoning board of appeals in time for the next meeting? So I'd entertain a motion to,
Can I just?
Sure.
Just a clarification.
sure.
I think someone would like to speak. Is this allowed, or what's the status? of
We're
it?
actually not in a public hearing.
Oh, okay, I just had a quick question.
If it's something we can answer, I'm happy to.
Okay, as part of the proposal, Hetch was going to have a deed restriction put in for the Judah Chase house so that it retained its architectural integrity and its exterior, that the exterior would remain intact. I was just wondering if you knew anything about this and if you knew if this was going to, if you could ask if this is actually still included as part of
So
the plan.
it's not something I'm familiar with at the present moment. It doesn't mean that that isn't actually part of of their intention. The appropriate place for that is really at the zoning board of appeals meeting, where at that meeting, they will have a full public hearing. They'll be taking public comment, and they'll also be in a position to draft some, they may be able to draft some restrictions or to answer those questions as to whether that's still a part of the application or not.
Okay, I just thought it might be something that
Appreciate
might
it.
enter into your discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So would you like a motion?
Please.
Yes, I move that the Historic Commission sends a letter approving of the, is it 40B application? Is that what's
Correct.
considered? Under the condition the Job House remains in place and of substantially its current form.
I second it.
For a point of clarification for me, to the gentleman's point, is it the streetscape and the exterior that you're concerned with?
Yeah, and that is
Versus
what,
the
that is what our jurisdiction
Okay.
is. It's not on interior.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 4-0. Thank you all. We have a couple of other ministerial matters on to follow up on item B. I will draft a letter, I will circulate it to you all, and then we'll send that over to the ZBA.
Great.
And we'll get that out to you this week, or the beginning of next. The next item, I know we had talked about it at the last meeting, having a general discussion concerning procedures and requirements for CPC funding and our participation and input if required. And along the same lines, I know Mr. Bradley had, at the time, had some concerns about historic preservation versus restoration. Is it the board's pleasure to take up these two items tonight, or would we like to table them for a subsequent meeting?
I would like to table them for a regular meeting and
Okay.
a fuller quorum.
Okay. So I'll obtain a motion to table.
I move that we table both items C and D.
C and G, okay.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Barbara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we will table those 2 items and we'll place them on the next regular meeting agenda for March. Next item, we have received a communication from the Horsley Witten Group. It is regarding Section 106, review of stormwater improvements along Route 6 in the towns of Harwich, Brewster, and Orleans. I believe this is just an informational letter. If there are any questions, please feel free. Otherwise, the chair would entertain a motion to accept and place on file. I don't believe there's a call to action to this in any,
No, I think the purpose is if it does interfere with any historic structures, and looking at the plans, it does not appear to.
does not.
Right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept and enter into record the letter from
Okay.
Horsley Witten.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There is any opposition? No, unanimous. Thank you, folks. Are there any, did anyone have any other reports or briefings? I don't know if any of you had any other committees that you sat on that you,
No.
okay. I would just like to give a short update on the minutes. I know we're behind in some minutes. They are being worked on, and hopefully we will have some from the last couple of meetings in the next, by the next meeting. We should have something to review and go over. Is there anything that anybody here wishes to see on the next regular meeting agenda?
Well, these 2 items will be.
Those 2 items will be automatically, we'll put those back on.
And I'm not sure where this might fit in, but I think it would probably run into the general discussion on historic preservation and restoration,
Okay,
and the discussion that we had concerning the library and the paint colors and so forth and so on. Would that fall into that?
it
along-
was, that's what I was trying to
okay.
capture with that, but
Oh,
broad
good.
enough that we could,
So, great.
we could discuss it.
Okay, so that will be on the agenda.
put
and
that
we
on
can
the
open up
next.
oh, great.
We'll have some minutes to review, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And Miranda has asked to be on our next agenda to speak about the 100-year structures
Good.
report that she had prepared, but we hadn't fully gone through.
Right.
So I believe that will be on our next agenda as well.
Good, good.
Anything else before we move to adjourn?
I don't think so. I don't.
Is there a
I move to
motion?
adjourn.
Any second?
Second. My
All
turn.
those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.